What is up? It's Thomas with Real Broker here in St. Augustine, Florida, coming at you live every Wednesday at 8 p.m., going over the market stats, the news you need to know about, everything about buying, selling, or investing here in Northeastern Florida. And we're also doing a Q&A. So every week, I'm here for you guys. Whether you're watching it live or you're watching the replay, every week at 8 p.m., we're going over real estate stuff, whether it's new developments in the area, the market stats, what's going on with condos, insurance in the entire state of Florida. We're covering it all. So if you have any questions regarding anything real estate related in Florida or St. Johns County, the surrounding areas, just let me know in the comments below. And yeah, if you have anything else, if you're watching the replay, I'll get back to it. I'll comment as much as I can. But sometimes YouTube doesn't let me know every time that there's a comment there, which is kind of frustrating, especially when it comes down to replies. Let me just make sure we're firing on all platforms. It looks like that we are. And let's go ahead and hop into it. So I actually have a video coming out on Saturday about Florida's real estate market and St. Johns County's real estate market. I'm going to give you a sneak peek at some of the data. And really, the main thing with that video that I put a lot of time into is more or less like, okay, what are the foundations of like people being able to buy a home or sell a home in the area? And a lot of that comes down to affordability, right? So we talked heavily about inflation, we talked heavily about interest rates, but then also we're talking about the unemployment here in the area, and that's something that I think is obviously very important because you have to have a job in order to buy a house most of the time, unless you have the cash or some other type of income. So let's go ahead and just take a quick look at some of the stats. I'm going to pull this up. All right, so this is the 10-year Treasury and 10-year and 30-year mortgage rates. So the mortgage rates and the 10-year Treasury, this is probably the best indicator of where mortgage rates are starting to go, right? If the 10-year Treasury starts to trickle down, mortgage rates should start to follow that. And as you can see here, this is, it's not exactly year over year, but it's it looks like it's like 10-month spans here. So just to see how this is moving, you can see that they pretty much move about 3% apart from each other. So for example, if the federal funds rate was 3%, we should see mortgage rates in the 6% range, right? So the 5.5% to 6% range more than likely. This is going to be the best indicator of what's going to happen with mortgage rates here in the future. So we are currently on a downtrend. Now this is a different timetable altogether. That was looking at years essentially, and this is looking at months. So it's going to be a lot more up and down than what we saw were like steady rises and steady declines. So as of right now, we're in a downtrend, and I looked up rates, and it looks like we're at 6.75, and you're probably got good credit. You're probably at 6.5, something like that. So hopefully we start creeping closer to that 6% range, and that's all something I'm going to cover on Saturday. Is like, what's the possibility of that? Just looking at like what the Fed is planning to do in terms of the federal funds rate to fight inflation. And then also we have the wild card of, just Trump putting pressure on the Fed. It seems that, the Fed acts, what they say is that they act independently of any governing body. It doesn't matter if Democrat, Republican, independent, whatever. They're acting independently for the best monetary policy of the United States. But Trump is like just saying like, hey, Jerome Powell, you need to lower my dog in the back. You need to lower the federal funds rate right now. And that would be a big win for their administration, of course, because once they did that, then it would just pretty much lower borrowing costs across the board, which is what we all want, right? But could that add more inflation, more fuel to the fire? Very hard to say. So we're in a tumultuous time. All of this stuff is a moving target. So let's take a look at some more stats just before I leave off of that. I like this graph a lot. So this is February sold listings in the top 15 zip codes. So out of these top 15 zip codes, and this covers Jacksonville, the Duval Service Metro area, right? So, or Jacksonville Metro Service area. So Jacksonville makes up the majority of Duval County, but we do have Clay County in here, and there's Baker County and Nassau County, all those. Essentially, out of all the 15 zip codes, or all the zip codes in this area, the top 15 zip codes, 6 of them are in St. Johns County. So things are still selling pretty rapidly. And the main thing that you're going to see here is the main zip code selling is 32092. So when you think about Silverleaf, that's going to be this area right over here. Silverleaf, Trailmark. That's where the hub of all the new construction, all the new development in St. Johns County is happening. Is pretty much in this northwestern part of St. Johns County. And you can see that the 32259 area with 67 home sales, another area of St. Johns County that we're seeing good strength in. This is like the Nocatee area. This is actually where I live, 32084. Once again, another, really at the top here. And then you have the beaches over here, which is like Volano Beach up to Ponte Vedra Beach. So St. Johns County is selling a ton of homes, but when you look at that at face value, you're like, oh, okay, well, the market's just fine there. And that's, in my opinion, that is true, right? The market is just fine here. It's just much slower than it was in 2021 and 2022, which, in my opinion, is a pendulum. Like 2021, 2022 was all the way over here, and now we swung back a little bit. We're more in the normal, and some people feel that we're swinging back the opposite way. We'll keep on top of that because the inventory is going to be the main indicator, how many homes we have on the market, which we do have a good bit of homes. So I did the math the other day, and I took a look at the past 6 months of closings. And in general, let me show you this stat real quick. Let's see. New construction, this is across the 5 counties that we covered, Jacksonville Metro service area. New construction is 22% of active listings. Now, when you look in St. Johns County, it's actually much more than that. I think it's actually 29%. And then when I took a look at the following 6 months in terms of our closings, it actually made up, I think, 39% of all of our closings over the past 6 months. So that, to me, is staggering, right? That is a huge amount of people that are like, you know what, we're just going to new construction. But that's because they're offering the interest rate buydowns. They're offering, a brand new home, and they're also offering closing costs. And with a median sale price in St. Johns County north of $500,000, you need to get some savings somewhere, right? And in reality, that's going to be in the new construction communities because they're buying down rates to 4.99 to 5.5%. When you compare 4.99 to a 7% interest rate, it's night and day of like how much your payment's going to be. And then also you have a new home, so everything's under warranty, all that good stuff. Maybe you get to design it, something like that. So there's a lot of benefits to the new construction, but for a buyer, it's fantastic. If you're a seller, it makes it really tough when you're in that northwestern part of St. Johns County because your direct competition is what the new builder is offering, right? So your home really has to be able to set itself apart, especially if you're in the Silverleaf area. I mean, that's going to be years and years. And that's one of the main things I think is a problem with Silverleaf if you're considering moving there, but you don't plan on staying there forever, right? Is you're going to be competing with the builder for the next 10 years probably. They're going to put 18,000 homes out there. So really interesting. We'll, of course, stay up to date on everything relating with real estate and northeastern Florida, but overall it seems like the sales are going good. Median sale price is tracking. Actually, I have that data too, but it's all, I don't want to spoil my Saturday video, but it's all coming out there. But let's see, I have seasonality here. So active listings, this is once again Jacksonville Metro service area. So we're talking about more than St. Johns County. We're actually trending higher than the historical patterns that we normally see. A lot of these numbers get revised after the fact as well. So what we're going to skip down here to, I'll just do the whole thing right now. So pending sales, right? So in January, pending sales were 1,805, but initially it was projected for 1,700 and ended at 1,805. So we're expecting this number here to get revised once again, 1,980, and that would keep us above the pending sales for this area. And then we hit the, essentially the spring and summer selling season. So, as of right now, we're tracking positively. The only thing to keep a look on, even closings are above the historical average. Median sale price is right along where it needs to be in terms of how we historically move throughout the year, right? And that's all we can look at. I can't tell you the future, guys, but I can look at the past and make some assumptions, right? This is also going to tie into that. And I think this is really important if you're like concerned about the market, concerned about buying a home and losing, your money. This one right here, I love this graph. So it's all relative, right? You go back to 2002, you can see that our market on a straight line has appreciated 5% year over year. There's times where the market was overpriced, right? As you can see, we were going into the great financial crisis here. And then when we got out of it really and things, they didn't settle down, things got worse for people. You can see that we were severely underpriced, right? And that happened for a long time, really up until 2020. And I think anyone that moved here between let's say when the pandemic happened, right after that till about 2021, you were like, man, this place is cheap for what you get, right? And then as we got into 2021, 2022, started to be overvalued, and now we're kind of back in the normal. So technically, where we're at right now is fairly priced, slightly undervalued based on the smooth line of a 5% appreciation year over year. I have another graph, maybe I think it's in the video, but in general, across the United States, 90% of the time when you buy a home, and this tracks all the way back since the 1980s, 90% of the time your home is worth more the next year. Okay, so if we're just looking at historical averages, guys, it's pretty good. You know, if you're going to bet on something, that's a pretty good bet. Here in the Jacksonville metro service area, it's 84% of the time, right? So once again, still pretty high, but want to localize it here for you. So any questions about that stuff, guys? I know I just went over a lot of data. I'm putting out like a more like, hey, sit down, grab some popcorn. On Saturday, it's going to come out. If you're a data junkie, you might like it. If not, you might glaze over, and I don't know. I put a lot of effort into these videos, but it's very hard to structure things and make it, one, keep your attention, but two, also make it make sense. You have to structure it and balance things out so that you can kind of build your case in a way. So either way, guys, let's go on to the news stories here. Any questions about the real estate market here, any news stories that we have, throw them in the comments below. Here for you guys every Wednesday at 8 p.m. doing this. Last week I wasn't here. Side note, if you guys are watching, I probably knew that I was awaiting a baby. Me and my wife are having our first baby. She was born on the 27th last week. Her name's Lucia. She's been fantastic so far, besides keeping me up at night, which is what happens, right? I'm all new to this, so it's been an exciting journey so far. But we got our parents here helping us as well, so it's been really great. Really excited for it. She's already rolled her eyes at me, so it's a good start. All right, on to the next news, or on to the first news story here, guys. Let's see here. Florida's migration boom loses steam, putting pressure on home prices. And in reality, we all know that like this wasn't going to keep lasting. You know, because of the pandemic, people moved here for political reasons. They also moved because we had a lot less lockdown style. How we treated COVID was way different. Really, from what I remember being in COVID, it was like a month here where things were like, oh shit, what's going to happen? Maybe 2 months, right? And then life went back to normal, and that's what it was. And maybe that was my reality. Maybe that wasn't a lot of Floridians' reality, but from my perspective being here, that's how it felt. When I have plenty of friends in New York and New Jersey, and it was like lockdown, you know, California, and they're like, hey, yeah, we're all locked down. We're not doing anything. Some real estate agents couldn't even work. Here in Florida, we were essential, so we still had the ability to work, which was pretty interesting. But let's take a look at the stats here, guys. So last year, Florida gained 64,000 new residents from net domestic migration. That's down from 185,000 in 2023 and 314,000 in 2022, according to the U.S. Census Bureau data. Housing experts say that Florida's high home insurance costs driven by elevated natural disaster risks in the state are likely a factor in the slowdown. Also, as well, Florida has one of the highest ratios of home prices to local incomes in the South, making it relatively less affordable than many of its neighbors. So, I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about here, guys. Like, there was a boom, right? And we can see that in pricing, days on market, the inventory that we had here. It was all very, very low during that time. I was looking for the entire state of Florida. There was 30,000 homes available for the entire state of Florida. To put that into context, there's like 9,000 homes available in the Jacksonville metro service area right now. So completely different. But that's also because we were going from such an extreme, and we're kind of feeling like a kickback from that almost, right? Doesn't mean the sky is falling. It's just like, hey, we're kind of returning back to normal. Now, of course, with the insurance issues and everything, that's a big problem. Property taxes. People talk about that being a problem, but I don't know that it necessarily is if you homestead your property. Now, if you're going to buy a property as an investment, that's where property taxes they're going to keep going up as long as the neighborhood appreciates. So people say like, oh, my property taxes went up 20, 30% in the past couple of years. Well, if you didn't have your property homesteaded, if it was a second home for you, that is normal, right? But if you homestead your property, the most that they can raise your taxes year over year is 3%. So that's where it's really misleading. If you're looking to buy a home in Florida, Zillow doesn't have it updated. Their tax rates in Florida are completely off from what I can see. Um, One, the millage rate that they're showing, but also like what the actual tax amount is, because they're showing you what the old owner paid. That owner bought that house for $100,000 and his taxes were, let's say his taxes were $1,000 for the year. That's probably a lot more than it would be, but let's say it was $1,000 and he gets his homestead, they can only raise it 3% year over year over the course of 10 years. Meanwhile, like if you buy an investment property, I think they can raise it up to 10%. Or so when you transact, it's all based off the purchase price. So like let's say that $100,000 house was now a $400,000 house. Well, taxes are going to change pretty drastically. It's going to be about a $5,000 tax bill overnight, right? And most people and a lot of lenders that don't work in the state don't even realize that that's what's going to happen. So people, and I've heard horror stories, if you are working with a lender that isn't licensed in Florida, you need to work with someone that's licensed in Florida and does business in Florida, because a lot of people a year into them buying a home here in Florida will get a hit with a tax bill in a year, and they'll be like, what the heck's going on? Because they weren't informed of like that's how taxes are paid in arrears. They change because it's a triggering event when you purchase a property. So aside from that, now we're talking about property taxes being completely eliminated here in the state of Florida, which as of right now, initially when I heard it, I'm like, I like that. It's like when you buy a car. You buy a car, once you're done paying off the car, you don't continue to pay on the car aside from insurance. Why is your home any different? And then people are like, oh, well, they want to get rid of the education system here. They want to get rid of all these things that tax dollars pay for. But more than likely what would happen is we just raise our sales taxes to probably, right now it's like 6% for the state. St. Johns County adds a half cent on top of that. So it's 6.5% here. I think it's 7% in Duval County, 7% in Palm Coast. So it'd probably go up to like 10 or 12%, right? So everything you buy has an extra 10 or 12% on it, which would suck. But hard to say, like then you can kind of control your spending, what you're spending your money on, versus like your taxes on your property that are forever going to go up, even though it's only 3% if you homestead the property. It's kind of weird that you keep paying for that. I don't know. I'm indifferent on it right now. I don't know if there's been any states that have successfully done that. It's like a case study. I'd be really interested if anyone knows about that. I'll try and do some more research on it, but looks like we got some questions. Oh, we got some congrats too. Thank you, Nicholas C. Appreciate it, man. Really stoked for it. She's been a good baby so far. Besides, like, all babies do this thing, I guess, where it's called witching hour, where they get up at like 1 in the morning and just cry. My wife had to have a C-section, so she can't really get up. So all I'm doing is just like getting up, picking up this baby and just handing it over. And then when she's done feeding, picking it up, putting it back in the bassinet. I'm just going on the baby Uber at this point. But yeah, it's really cool. It's really interesting. That it was in her belly like a week ago, and now it's outside just hanging out. Just crazy. Devin, my man, appreciate you. So excited about the birth of your daughter. Congrats, Debbie. Thank you so much. Oh, Tracy, thank you so much. Really appreciate that. We got Nicholas C. back on here. I've been reading that there is potential for eliminating property taxes in Florida. DeSantis has floated it, and Byron Daniels has floated it. Do you have insight on this? Yeah, so I don't know. I probably read this a little late, but yeah, so property taxes, the only thing I know is that they're trying to put a bill forward, and they just put I think he just put a bill forward like last week on it. But I imagine, especially with like the political temperament right now, this is just me guessing, it's posturing, probably trying to push something else through. Who knows? I'm kind of interested. What do you guys think about this? I'd really like to know what you guys think about the property tax. Like, if there was no property tax on your property, how would that make you feel about buying a home here? Because in a way, what I think they're trying to do is they're like, hey, insurance is totally screwed right now. They're trying to put things forward to fix the insurance issue here in Florida. But they're like, how can we also make Florida more attractive and buying a home in Florida more attractive? Well, if there's no property tax, and I think the one insight I do have on that, Nicholas, is it's only on homes that it's your house. It's your primary residence. It's not for investment properties, only for primary residences, which I think I dig. I think I like that. But the problem is I don't know how this would affect schools and stuff like that, infrastructure. How would that work? That's hard to know. And then would it be even cheaper? Like in reality, right? So like if you're paying property taxes on your property, I think my property taxes bought a $300,000 house here in West Augustine. I think our property taxes are like $2,500 a year. Not terrible, right? But if I were to, how much money I spend on the monthly, if I have a 10% tax on that over the course of the year, I mean, I imagine, what would be the math on that? So 10%, $2,000. So that'd be $20,000, right? So, or $25,000. So let's say that I'm spending $25,000 a year, which I probably imagine I am, between eating out and groceries and whatever I got to buy. Probably be more expensive, right? I don't know. See, that's where I have to like do the math, and it's like, well, okay, well, are they going to say, hey, property taxes they're free over here, but you got to pay this extreme sales tax over here? Comes out in the wash. You're spending more money when there's no property taxes to get the same result. I wouldn't like that. So I'm going to do a video on that, Nicholas, here in the future. I just wanted to see like what other information is going to come out. So just stay tuned, subscribe to the channel. Because I'm interested as well, being a Florida homeowner. So let's see here. Would this be for 100% of all income levels statewide? Once again, I don't have enough information on it, but I believe it's for primary homeowners. I don't think it's for anyone else besides primary homeowners, which in reality, that would definitely curtail your spending if you were on a fixed income, right? But it would also save you right off the bat. Like, well, maybe that's a quick win, right? Like, oh man, I don't have a $2,000 tax bill this year. Got $2,000 in my pocket. Go Ron DeSantis, right? I don't know, because how does that affect us 5 years down the line? Very tough to say. And I'm not pro or, con against any Democratic Party or Republican Party. I don't care, I'm about what's right from my pockets. That's it. So let's go to JJ. Nicholas, thank you so much. Everyone, thank you so much for your comments here. Love it when this happens. JJ, one thing that is different from before is that 32092 has lots of growth, construction, new healthcare, schools, services, 55 plus communities, that it seems to be at a tipping point to feed growth. So JJ, I don't know what you mean there, like tipping point in a negative or a positive way, right? Is feeding growth a negative or a positive thing in this situation? I could probably guess it's negative, right? Hard to say. If you can give me some context on that, maybe I'm just reading that wrong. Like in terms of like traffic is at a tipping point, pricing's at a tipping point. There's so many ways I can go with that, JJ. I'm not sure what you mean. I'm sorry. But if you let me know some more, I'll try and answer this. All right, we got Anthony here. Anthony, from what I see, folks trying to sell their new construction house bought 2 or 3 years ago are getting less for their house. This is in St. John's. Well, if they bought 2 or 3 years ago, more than likely they have equity in their home. More than likely, right? If you bought in 23, well, I guess that's 2 years ago. So if we're still in the beginning of the year, but if you bought in like 23, 24 and you're trying to sell your house now and you're competing with one new construction, which you just bought from, that's going to be extremely hard. But if you bought in like 20, 21, 22, you're probably sitting on like 30% equity or something like that. It's pretty amazing how quickly things change for them. Because a lot of those people that sign contracts, so it's a domino effect, right? Where if you signed a contract to build a new construction home, and many builders in 2020 weren't doing spec homes at all, you're more than likely building it. So it was to be built. Most of them were taking 4 to 5 months. With COVID, that sometimes knocked people out a year and a half, right? Because all the supply chain issues. So someone signed a contract in, let's say, 2020 in March, and it was supposed to close in 4 months. Well, they got essentially 2020 pricing, but then let's say someone signed a contract in December of 2020, and then our market really started taking off in 2021. And because of all the supply chain issues, they didn't close until 22. They could have probably got that, let's say a new construction house for $350,000 out there in Northwest St. Johns County. And that house now is probably worth $450,000 to $500,000, right? So it's just moved so quickly. But yes, that is happening for sure. People that have bought their home and they were, for whatever reason, they, have to go back to work or they have to move for familial reasons. That's happening. And that's one of the toughest things about being in a new construction community, or with being in a vicinity of a new construction community. And here in St. Johns County, it's everywhere. You drive 10 minutes anywhere, there's a new construction community. You're competing with them. right? And what they can offer. And in reality, they can offer a heck of a lot more than you and I because they have the profit margins to do so. That's the other thing, is all these things are lagging. I mean, these companies bought this land years ago, like more than likely for everything to get pushed through and developed, it took 2 to 3 years. Silverleaf opened in 2020, so it's like they probably bought that land in 2015 when, if you think things are expensive now, people thought things were expensive in 2015, but it's dirt cheap to us now, right? So their profit margins are through the roof in this area for sure. I'm positive of it, at least for most of the new construction communities. But so that within that, they can say like, hey, you know what? With our partner lender, and they finagle the numbers a good bit, where it's legal to do somehow. I'm not sure exactly how. It's like a legal jujitsu that they're doing with all these numbers. But typically, like in a regular transaction, if you're buying a home, if you're using conventional loan, 20% down, the most you can ask for from a seller is 6% of the purchase price to contribute to your closing costs, or maybe a rate buy down, something like that, right? So let's just take a $500,000 house. If you're asking for 6% of a $500,000 house, you're asking for 30 grand. That's a lot of money. That's a good chunk of change to just, hey, like I'm gonna offer you 500, but I want 30 back, right? So that's a good chunk of change that'll cover your closing costs. That could possibly buy down your interest rate at a couple of points, not anything drastic. But like just talking with the new construction builder here, like Lennar is buying down interest rates to 4.99, and that's costing them like 35-40 grand each time they do it. They're doing it for everybody, so that's a ton of money. And then on top of that, because they have a partnership with their lenders, they're able to kind of shift the money around somehow. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. Either way, it's a benefit for the buyers out there. So I'm super stoked for you guys to get it. I have a 7% interest rate, so 4.99 is a win all day long. It's a great interest rate. But they're also like, hey, we'll pay your closing costs too. So if you're buying a $500,000 house, we're talking $15,000 to $20,000 just to close on your loan, which is aside from your down payment. They're saying, here, take it. So really hard to compete, Anthony, in that scenario where the only thing sellers can compete on, you and I can compete on, is price, right? So you got to be really competitive with your price. Over 50% of the listings in our market right now are stale. Listings that are priced right are moving, right? Things that are moving ready and they're priced correctly, they're still selling. But the pricing strategy is very key right now because of the competition from new construction. Anthony, thank you so much. Man, I'm going on tangents, guys. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm assuming this is because we are competing against with new construction prices and deals. When will this competition end, do you think? It's not going to end. It's not going to end at all. They're expecting, assuming that everyone's right, in the statistics, St. Johns County is expecting our population to grow. Right now we're at 330,000 people, to grow up to 660,000 people by 2050, right? So double the population that's currently here right now. Pretty crazy to think about like that. Probably not going to change. But for example, if you're up there in St. John's, you have to compete with Silverleaf. You have to compete with Rivertown. You have to compete with Shearwater. On the other side, you have Beacon Lake, Nocatee, Middlebourne. You have all these new construction communities all over the place. Very difficult to compete in that instance. You got to make your house stand out, for sure. So Silverleaf, for example, has 18,000 homes they're going to build. They're probably around like 3,000 to 4,000 right now in terms of homes built. We got another 10 years of Silverleaf building homes, and they got 8 builders in there. So it's not going to be anytime soon, my friend. What's up, my friend? Sorry, the Instagram user, I got to check. Let's see here. Who said what's up, my friend? I don't know. It doesn't show who said what's up, my friend. Either way, appreciate you being here, friend. Let's go back here and let's check out. Oh, we got one more comment. Let's see. JJ's back on it. Just meant all the services are creating jobs to support and create the market. P.S. Congrats. Thank you so much, JJ. Yeah. So, I guess that's where I'm still confused with the tipping point. Like, is that a negative thing or a positive thing? Like tipping point until like, hey, like St. Johns County's long gone. Like it's just going to keep getting more expensive, or like, you know, this could be a negative thing. I don't know, but that whole area, yeah. I mean, new schools, they open a new school every year. It seems like, well, it is every year, sometimes two, here in St. Johns County. I think over the next like 17 years, they have, or no, is it 10 years? They plan to open 17 schools. It's something like that. They have like double digits how many schools they want to build here in the area. But that makes sense, especially, I mean, if you have kids and they're in the public school system here, let me know if I'm wrong. But I know things, you know, they have opened a couple different schools. Things have slowed down in terms of net migration to our area. But one of the bigger problems is like people are like, hey, these schools are overcrowded. Now, overcrowded here is like, you know, 5 extra kids in the classroom. Correct me if I'm wrong, of course, but that's one of the things that St. Johns County is like priding itself on. Is like, hey, we have great schools, great teacher to student ratio. So people moved here and that wasn't the case for them. They're like, what the heck's going on? And that's because it just happened so quickly. They're building schools left and right. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right. Let's go on to the next news story here, guys. Any other questions about what we're covering here today? Let me know in the comments below. Speaking of new developments, we got another new development that's getting pushed forward, or at least it's being brought to the county. It's called Water Lilly. I covered it several months ago, but it was shot down, and now they're back, right? So I'm not sure what they did to change it, but essentially it's going to be a 3,000 homes in northwest St. Johns County. I think this is just south of Rivertown on County Road 13. So Rivertown, or maybe just north. Sorry, just north of no. This is south of 208. Yeah. So south of Rivertown on County Road 13. And this is the largest master plan community south of County Road 208, which is pretty crazy to think of. So this is about the size of a Shearwater, of a Palencia, of a St. Augustine Shore. It's going to be about 3,000 homes. So cool thing is that this is going to be an age-restricted community. So it's going to be a 55 plus. It's going to be 1,000 acres, 1,100 acres. And then what I thought was really cool is they actually have some land on the other side of 13 here. So they will have a boat dock, kayak launch, all that kind of stuff for the residents here. What I think probably needs to be done is probably adding just a public boat ramp and calling it a day and letting the county maintain it. But that's getting proposed here. I imagine, you know, the one thing you got to keep an eye on is you'll see that these things get pushed. And if you're totally against development, right, you don't want this to happen, and you see that this got denied. Water Lily got denied several months ago. I think it was like November or October. I can't remember. They'll just bring it back. They'll change the plan a little bit. You know, they'll say, oh, it got denied for this, and that reason. So they'll go back. They'll change the plan a little bit, and they'll be like, all right, what about this? And, you know, at a certain point, I think, and when that initial pop of like people that are against it, like they go and they rally and they go against it and they're like, we won, and they walk away and forget about it. Then they come back a second or a third time, they propose a thing, then it gets passed. So I imagine this will get passed. Just what it is. People want to move here. People want to retire here, and that is fitting a need. Also, you know, and it's not obviously I put out content. I want to help people buy, sell, and invest in the area. That's no secret, right, guys? I do it. This is a fair exchange here. You know, I'm giving you information. We're talking about the area so that if you are looking to do that, you hopefully use me. But people could blame me. I've seen people leave comments like, you're the reason that St. Johns County is the way it is. It's like, no, people want to move to St. Johns County because they want the best for what they think is the best for themselves. Do I help them in it? Yeah, of course. Like if it wasn't me, it was someone else. Like, but at the end of the day, like people want to move here because they're looking for a better quality of life for themselves, and they see that here in St. Johns County. So the hard thing is like for locals here is the prices are going crazy, the jobs aren't catching up with it, and the area is changing, right? No secret there. But if you've only lived here locally, the hard pill to swallow is that we've been spoiled for many, many years with low home prices, very cool place to live, and it's still a great place to live. But many of the people that live here locally haven't experienced other areas and don't understand what we have here in St. Johns County. That's at least my 2 cents on it. Probably gonna get put on a stake or something like that. You know, we'll see. But that development's probably going to go through. On to the next one. This one I'm completely opposed to. St. Augustine leaders decide to cut Night of Lights by 8 days to ease holiday traffic. Okay, so let's just take that, right? Cut Nights of Lights by 8 days, okay? So a week to ease holiday traffic, okay? So let's see. It's now going to run from November 2022. When's Thanksgiving? It's after that, right? Yes, it is. Through January 4th. Okay, so when's the holiday season? To me, it's like the third week of, from Christmas on. My birthday is the 24th, so really the 24th through the end of the year to the new year. So they want to cut it in January. January is not the holiday season. Like the point of traffic, the point of contention that people are complaining about is not during January. This is the worst decision. Like maybe not the worst. Obviously, there's worse decisions than this, but in my opinion, just following this stuff for the past couple of years, this is one of the worst decisions that the leadership here in St. Johns County has made. The only people, yes, this is going to affect some tourism for sure, right? There's going to be people that wanted to come during January because they wanted to miss the crowds for the holidays, right? Locals, like myself, don't go downtown during December because it's a mess. There's a ton of people down there. You got to wait 45 minutes for a restaurant. You got to wait 10 minutes for a drink at the bar. No one wants to do that. I don't want to do that. If I have friends come into town, family, whatever, yeah, we're going to go downtown or we're going to go to a restaurant, whatever. We're going to stomach it, but it's like once or twice. I'm not going down there every weekend. I'm waiting for January, right? Because then I can go experience Night of Lights. There's no crowds. Still go to a restaurant, still go get some good food. But now they're cutting Nights of Lights by 20 days in January is nonsensical to me. And I literally don't understand it. You can't make that make sense to me. If you can, leave it in the comments below. I'd love to see it, but don't see how that's going to affect the holiday traffic at all. People are still going to want to come down there during the times when they're off and they have their kids and they want to go out to eat. They're having vacations. It's during that time. So either way, it's silly. I think that's probably one of the silliest things I've seen that St. Johns County's done. They're silly gooses. All right. And this is something that I think St. Johns County needs to do. Duval County is trying to do something about it. Once again, my biggest problem with government is that it just takes so long to get something done. Like, it seems like it's years and years. By the time they want to address the problem, it's just too expensive anyway. Proposals to pave way for missing middle infill housing wither at Jacksonville City Hall. So essentially, as we've been talking about, housing in our area has gotten more expensive. It's happening all across the country. Housing is a big hot topic issue where it's just a problem, right? It's very expensive to buy a house these days, especially with the mortgage interest rates. I think if mortgage interest rates were 4%, no one would complain, right? Everyone would be happy. But they're not. So people complain about the pricing, but at the same time, all of our cities have been designed for cars and for subdivisions and all that kind of stuff. They're not designed how traditional cities were designed. Like if you look at St. Augustine proper, like downtown St. Augustine, it's a European city. You're going to see apartment complexes and you're going to see duplexes and quadplexes and all that throughout there. And you're going to see tight little parcels with tiny little homes on them. Things were subdivided in a much tighter way. But then as, the United States grew, it became, zoning laws changed, it became more about having a backyard and having space and then the 2-car garage and all this kind of stuff. We've completely moved away from that type of housing. So Jacksonville is trying to push something forward. I'm a big proponent of it here. I have a great interview. Oh my gosh, I'm missing his name, but on my podcast section, I have an interview with an architect here locally that proposed a plan for missing middle housing here in St. Johns County. And it's a great idea. It's something that this area could 100% benefit from. And at the same time, like St. Augustine's a European city. It was meant to be walked on, right? It's not meant to have a whole bunch of driving traffic through it. And we need to stop pretending that it's set up for something different than it is. You want to complain about traffic? It's not. It was built in 1565. It wasn't built for cars. It was built for people to walk and maybe ride a horse, right? So we need to just, okay, hey, that's what it is. And we need to build and build homes and missing middle homes surrounding that, because people in this area, they do want to ride their bikes. They do want to, walk places. They don't always want to hop in a car. So Jacksonville is no different. Either way, they've been shot down a couple times. Doesn't mean they're done with it. They said they're going back with a different plan to address missing middle housing. Here's the really interesting thing, and it always works out this way, is somehow the extremely wealthy areas they tend to get left out of these things, right? So like this area here is going to be one of the cheapest areas to buy real estate, probably across the country, but definitely here in Florida. I mean, you can buy houses for $100,000 over here if you wanted to. And even still, Jacksonville is very, very affordable. I think the median sale price is $330,000. But over here, of course, so the purple and the yellow are areas where they're going to potentially, they plan to put missing middle housing, so the multifamily style housing. But it gets denied because people are like, oh, it's going to change the neighborhood. It's like, yeah, that's the point. But neighborhoods like Riverside and Avondale and Five Points, they all seem to get left out of those things. I wonder why. What do you guys think? Why do you guys think those neighborhoods get left out of those things? I really am not sure. Either way, I'm sure I know why they're left out of there. But that's my last news story here for tonight, guys. Let me see what questions we got. JJ's back. Tipping point in a positive perpetual motion kind of way, econ and development. Yeah, 100%. I mean, all those things are going to bring jobs. The main jobs in St. Johns County right now, the main industry is the hospitality industry, but there's not like one large hospitality group, right, that employs all these people. It's all these small restaurants and all, it's a collective of people. But aside from that, it's going to be the government, right? So public education, the sheriff's office, those are big employers here in town. Outside of that, you have Northrop Grumman, you have Ring Power, CAT, which is like they sell large, heavy machinery. And then you also have the real estate industry and the healthcare industry. They're building hospitals all over the place. They're building houses. That's one of the other largest sectors of employment here in the area. So by building all these commercial retail spaces, you're adding other potential for that to grow. So I agree, JJ. I think St. Johns County is a sweet place to live. It is changing. There's no doubt about it. And not all the change is positive, but in general, I do feel that it's pretty amazing to live here. We have a pretty great city here. Being close to Jacksonville and seeing how it's growing too, Jacksonville's going to be sweet. All right, let's see here. We got Sci-Fly, the fish guy. What is the cheapest new build price you've seen in the last year or so? Entertain the idea more and more of a new build, but leaning towards existing that needs TLC for negotiation purposes. The cheapest new build that I know you're looking for a single family home, so I'm just going to go off of that. If you're looking for a new construction townhome, man, they got a good deal on D.R. Horton's Cordera townhomes on 207. You're 10 minutes from downtown. You're 12, 13 minutes to the beach. All in with their rate buy down for a $220,000 to like $240,000 townhome with an FHA loan. So you're putting 3.5% down. I think that's like $8,500. Your payment's $1,700 a month. And when you look at rent in the area, you go to the Landing, 2-bedroom spot at the Landing, which is a rental complex off of US 1 north of downtown. 2-bedroom spot there is $1,650. So to me, all day long, if I'm a first-time home buyer, I'm going right over there. I'm buying a place out there. Single family home. So like my house, $300,000. I live a mile from downtown St. Augustine, from the historic section of downtown. $300,000 was my house, but it's 1,100 square feet. I got no garage. Cheapest, if you're looking, probably going to be in Jacksonville, I'd say. You can probably pick up a new construction home, depending, if you're on the north side of Jacksonville, for like mid-2s, low 3s. Palm Coast, same thing. You can find a new construction home for the low 2s, high 2s, mid 3s. Something else, Devin, I was thinking about too is might want to pick up a duplex down in Palm Coast, because I know we're talking about possibly investing down there. They got duplexes, new construction starting around like $450. So, and resales starting around that price point as well. But they're not new construction. I think they're around $5. But either way, $450 for a duplex. If you can't afford it and you're able to get a renter on one side, you can more than likely have some good income if you ever do decide to move away. So either way, hope that answered your question. Second part of that, leaning towards existing that needs TLC for negotiation purposes. Here's my thought on this. Work has just gotten more and more expensive. And I think the cost to most people, what's most important to people is keeping money in their pocket. And if you can essentially, if you buy a new place, you're rolling all of that TLC and all that cost into a loan, right? At let's say it's 7% interest rate for 30 years. Not terrible. Not terrible. What you'd spend, like let's say a little TLC. I mean, that's different for everyone, but let's say you got to redo the kitchen and you got to put a new roof on. Kitchen's at least going to cost you $20,000 to $30,000. That's cash money. Roof's going to cost you $20,000. You're at 50 grand out of your pocket. Does that make sense? What could you use that 50 grand right now for in terms of an investment? In terms of just like, hey, you know what? You want to go do something with your life. You want to buy a boat, whatever that's going to add to your life. That's where I think the conversation needs to come in is like, okay, what makes more sense for you, right? Now, if you're able to do all the work and you don't have a problem with that, that's totally fine, right? Now, me, I know I can do all the work. I know I could do the work myself, and I'd probably do it better than most of the contractors I would hire because I'm very, very particular. But when I think about it, my time spent on task, the money I spent on materials, the time I spend away from my actual job, I lose money, right? So it makes more sense for me to buy it new because if I have to put my time and attention into it, plus I have to spend money on material, it doesn't make good sense for me. So hope that helped you out a little bit. I know that was a little long-winded, but I seem to be long-winded tonight. I'm going to get off here after Anthony's question, guys. So if you have any other comments, questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll get back to them as soon as I can, but I'll do it in the comments. Do you think investing in a townhouse rental on 207 near Entrada entrance is good? Just want to pick an area where there's a rental market. Yeah, I do because one, they've got University of St. Augustine that just opened, like they just built a new campus. Well, they redid the record building between 207 and 312. So you're going to have students that are going to go there. University of St. Augustine's a physical therapy school. You, of course, have downtown St. Augustine where you have Flagler College. Then also they're building a hospital or an ambulatory center right outside of Entrada there. Now, the only thing I'll say there, Anthony, is like buying an investment property there. I'd have to double check if you can. And contrary to popular belief, a lot of these builders in our areas are not selling to BlackRock, right? Many of them don't allow it at all. So like even if Anthony, who probably doesn't work for BlackRock, wants to buy in St. Augustine at Cordera, you know, they're like, okay, hey, we're not selling the 3 bedrooms that well. You can buy a 3-bedroom, right? But you can't buy a 2-bedroom. And I'm pretty sure that's what the rule is. I want to double check, Anthony, if you are looking to do that, reach out to me and I can get you the answer directly. But I'm not 100% sure if investors are allowed in Cordera. They might be. I'm pretty sure because at Stokes Landing, which is north on US 1, same townhomes, same builder. I'm positive that the 3 bedrooms can be bought by investors where the 2 bedrooms are still not allowed to be bought by investors. So I may have that switched, but I'm pretty positive I have it right. So either way, reach out to me directly. Contact information's on like every video. I think actually I have it as a card here or something. I can just put it here. Guys, any questions about anything we covered here? I'm going to put my contact information below. You can just shoot me a text. It is 9 o'clock. I'm probably answering it by tomorrow, just to be honest, because I kind of want to hang out with my baby and maybe catch some sleep tonight. But this is my contact information there. So it goes directly to my phone. Anthony, if you have any questions more about those Cordera townhomes, let me know. I think they're a fantastic deal, though. Like I went in there with another buyer a couple months ago, and looking at the pricing of it, I was just like, man, this is a steal. Like, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, you know, you're looking at rentals in the area, and minimum you can get is I have a 2-bedroom townhome rented out with a garage for $1,900 right now. Right now, it has a garage, has a pond view. It's nice, but if you're looking to get your foot in the door, and you can put an FH8, let's just do the math here real quick. So I'm going to take the higher end of stuff because I know they have. You know what? Here, this is what we'll do. We're just going to pull them up. Let's see. Okay, let's just use 250. 250. I was wrong. I was a little off. 250. Okay. So if we just do the quick math there, 250 times 3.5% down $87.50, right? So you're at $87.50 for your down payment on this thing. And that would pretty much be your entire out of pocket, right? Because the builder's going to buy down your rate. They're also going to pay for your closing costs. Your payment from their rate buy down, and they're estimating here $1,500, but I think that's on like a 10% down payment. It's going to be like $1,700, right? $1,800. Like I did the math with a buyer specifically for FHA, and we were sitting there in DR Horton's office going over everything, and I was like, man, this is a steal. Plus, you know, if you're buying a $250,000 house, if you're buying a resale, your closing costs you're gonna have to pay for anyway. So let's say it's 3.5%. That's $87.50, right? So you're gonna have to pay an additional, if you're not buying a new construction house, you're gonna have to pay an additional essential $9,000 just to close on the loan, aside from your down payment. Total out of pocket, you're looking at like $18,000. So when rent is pretty much $1,800 a month, to me, it's a no-brainer. And people are asking for first, last month's and security deposit, what's that? If you're at $1,800 times 3, you're at $5,400. So it's $3,000's a good bit of money for a lot of people. But if you're having to make that move anyway, it's definitely worth it to save that little bit of money and get into one of these townhomes. So I don't know, guys. Hope that helps. Hope tonight was valuable for you. It was valuable for me. I love doing these kind of things and getting some real feedback from you guys. That's the comments are what really gets me engaged. Going over the news stories, it's for you guys, but it's kind of for me too. It keeps me informed. But guys, if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest here in northeastern Florida, whether it's Jacksonville, Palm Coast, St. Augustine, Palaca's cool too. Really, if you're looking to invest, Palaca might be a place to look, Anthony. Reach out to me directly. Any questions you may have, I'm here to help. Here every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Going over the market stats, the news you need to know about. If you think about buying, selling, or investing here in our area. Until next Wednesday, guys, have a good one.